Cool. Throw it on there. Yeah. We'd love to be future doctors.
It's a small channel right now, but maybe.
Hey.
A year earlier as a contractor.
How'd you get into it?
Started reading dinosaur books when I was a kid. Asked my dad for a ride.
Dude, look at this thing. Imagine this thing just slicing your belly open.
That's the third time he's done that.
It's in shooting.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Dr. Alan Titus. I'm a paleontologist at Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. And we were working on a lot of Tyrannosaurs in the lab. Staircase Escalante National Monument Paleontology Lab. It's the only working research paleo lab in the BLM. So, and the reason we have it here is because of Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. And when the monument was created in 1996, it specifically called out the late Cretaceous dinosaur and other fossils in the Kaparitz Plateau region. And we've been surveying for 20 years, and we've documented something like 4,000 vertebrate fossil sites. A lot of those are dinosaurs. And every once in a while, we get super lucky and find something that's truly mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And this 2014, we found a site that had multiple Tyrannosaurs buried together, which is incredibly rare. It's the first time we've ever seen a site like this in the southern U.S., and only the third one known in North America, and one of less than a half dozen worldwide for sure. Recovered 5 individual Tyrannosaurs, along with 7 different species of turtles, probably about the same number of fish, a giant Dinosuchus alligator. You ever heard of these guys?
That's what I had on the information at the other place we went to.
Yeah, 40 feet long. But
Wow.
this is a T-Rex sized gator. And so the site's incredible. It's one of the most important vertebrate fossil sites we've ever found in the monument. But this rainbow site is up there among the top. The Kaparitz Plateau in the late Cretaceous was a tropical to subtropical climate with very high rainfall, comparable to the upper Amazon basin today, or maybe the Pantanal in Bolivia, which is the largest wetland on the planet. And so you got lots of runoff coming out of mountains to the west, and lots of rain during the warm wet season. And that combination creates a perfect storm for burying animals very rapidly. You know, you got sediment-choked rivers coming down and dumping their sediment loads into the surrounding floodplains, and these will bury animals rapidly.
Like a flash flood?
Yeah, essentially. And so you can bury them with their soft tissue, you know, beaks and nails and claws and skin and everything, and that gets molded and preserved along with the bones, which are mineral and much more durable. So this is impression of neck skin off of a Hadrosaur dinosaur.
Oh, what?
I was waiting for that.
Wow. You can see?
Yeah, you can touch it. This is okay to touch. So you
Wow.
pet a dinosaur.
That's crazy.
I was waiting for that. I was like, is that dinosaur skin? Is that where he's going with this?
told us not to touch nothing, so we're all
That was, now I'm supervising, right?
Wow. That is insane.
And you can see the actual bone. So these are cervical neck ribs right here.
Let me do you.
So this is neck skin, and this associated with the bones in the neck.
Wow, that is so cool.
And then the bone itself, as it sits in the ground, it gets mineralized. You know, it gets filled with
Wow.
iron and quartz and carbonate minerals that fill up all the pore space and make it feel like a rock, even though what's still there is the original bone. So the original bone, chemically, that was in the living animals, still here. It's just all the empty space in the bone has now got rock in it. So it feels like a rock. You gotta pass. Go ahead and hold that. Very, very careful. Hold it closer to the base. There.
So you use epoxy or something to attach the pieces to each other,
We
or?
use 3 different kinds of glues. We use epoxies and cyanoacrylates. Go ahead.
Super glue.
Super glue, which are essentially non-reversible. But we only use those when we need really high bond strength, or gap filling, and good shear strength. you know, for a big
vertebrate,
object.
Yeah. This is probably what, cervical?
That's actually a proximal caudal, so it's one of the first in the tail.
Oh
I
wow.
was thinking up higher, maybe up for a crest with this amount of.
Yeah, no, so that's off a Hadrosaur. And right,
Oh,
it'd be one of
that's
these.
nasty. This is awesome, man.
Where- Okay, now I get it.
I'm holding a real dinosaur bone.
You are
Yeah.
holding a dinosaur,
Is that
Johnny.
your first?
Yeah. I mean,
We're making history here.
This
You know
is really.
how excited I am, I can't even explain right now.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
this is the dork out factor right now.
Level over 9,000.
I can tell that you're a complete dinosaur nerd. You
Oh
have
yeah,
dinosaurs
oh yeah, it's
everywhere.
all about that.
Wow.
I mean, this is a
That's
safety
cool.
safety space for dino nerds.
I will never let go. Yeah.
This is really cool.
I didn't get
Look at this.
I'll get to that.
That is so extraordinary. I know, you got to pet a dinosaur. Now
Structured
imagine
like a
when,
sword
when you
is
have to
amazing
write
how,
your
like, elegant
reports
it is.
and say, what did you do this summer?
I went to a dinosaur lab.
Yeah.
Not just a dinosaur lab.
Thank you.
So,
the fully functional dino lab.
you know, I'll sort of go through this table. So this is the tailbone out of a hadrosaur. This is the upper jaw or a maxilla out of the same animal. And so hadrosaurs are unique among all the dinosaurs. In fact, unique among all terrestrial grazing animals. They were herbivores, they ate plants, but they had a very bizarre tooth system in which they would push about 5 or 6 teeth out of each socket at a time, and those would amalgamate into a single cutting, grinding surface. So every little peg you see here is an individual tooth they've all coalesced into one single mega tooth. But this is more like a scissor. So they've worn this down into the edge of a scissor.
Wow.
And it meets this is
Oh,
the
wow.
lower jaw. See how all the teeth, each individual little frond looking thing is a tooth. So they can't move their
Wow.
jaws like this. They can't chew like we do back and forth with molars. They actually scissored their food like that.
That's cool.
So they would push it back into there with their tongue and just keep chopping it,
Wow.
you know, like a food processor. They've been called the Cuisinarts of the Cretaceous.
It's because their food is very fibrous and it needed.
Yeah, very tough and fibrous. When these animals were alive, flowering plants were essentially just evolving and diversifying. And so the dominant forests in the tropics still were conifers. So redwood trees, arcarians, needles, and very tough
Yeah.
fibrous vegetation so that's why they evolved. These and the horned dinosaurs like Triceratops also evolved a similar setup because of the challenges of eating
And
such.
what are these two layers?
Oh, so this is where the tooth row starts. So the tooth socket's this deep.
Oh my gosh.
You
Okay.
can see how
Right.
deep it runs.
Yeah.
So the teeth go all the way down to here, and this row, these holes, are blood vessel holes where an individual blood vessel was feeding nutrients into the growth of the tooth.
Wow.
Because they were constantly growing and pushing these out. They needed a lot of nutrient to go in there and feed that.
Wow.
Kind of
Yeah,
like sharks? Or?
Like a shark.
Yeah.
Like sharks are always shedding teeth and growing new ones. They're the same. And that way, they never had to go to the dentist. So we've named 5 new species of horned dinosaurs from the Caparowits in the last 10 years or so. And one of them is this animal, Nesutoceratops. They named that after me. The species named Titus.
Yay! Oppa!
And I happen to know the producer of the Jurassic World movies. I met him out at the Amangiri Resort, and we've visited a couple of times. And so he went ahead and featured my dinosaur in,
Oh, yeah?
in the movie.
In the new
Oh,
the Jurassic
neat.
World?
Yeah, the latest one I think is Dominion. The third
Yeah.
one in the installment is Dominion, and I think Nasuto was in a short called The Battle at Big Rock, and I think it's going to be actually in the movie.
Oh, nice.
So I'm pretty stoked. Cool. This is from a different site, but this is a Tyrannosaur maxilla. And
Oh wow! So the
this is
teeth.
a juvenile. You can see the teeth. There's one there, and there's a
Oh.
little baby one coming in right there as a replacement. I'll show you the other side. So that's the upper jaw of a Tyrannosaur, and we've got a
Is that the
cast
4-year-old?
of the skull. No, this is bigger than that. This is probably a 8 or 9-year-old, twice as big as the 4-year-old. 4-year-old would have been about the size of a German Shepherd.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe a little bigger. This guy's probably 15 feet. The full adult was 30 feet. So this is half full adult size. About the process then. So, we find a site like Rainbows. It's an acre of bone. You got bone everywhere. You got Tyrannosaurs. You got all this stuff. But you want to study it scientifically, right? The idea is to learn, not just collect souvenirs and take them back to the museum. So we very carefully brush everything with brushes. We remove as much rock as we feel is safe to expose the bones and get an idea of where everything is. Then we map it. We set out a big rectangular grid system using the metric system with meters. We map everything in place. We take photographs. We make lots of notes about the layers and the kind of sediment they're buried in, which is all context. It's all like crime scene investigation. And then once we've done that, then we try to define discrete groups of bones and clusters that we can get into manageable sized blocks, right? Because it has to be removed from the field. And so we'll define a little channel, cut a little channel around a discrete group of bones, and then we'll cap it with one of these really thick plastered jackets. We call these jackets. Look how many layers are in this block. I want you all to see this.
I see. They're in
Every one of those layers is an individual layer of burlap and plaster that was applied in the field. And we have to put that many layers on there because we want everything to be locked in tight. We don't want stuff moving and flexing and rolling around while we're moving it, It has to be solid. So we put these, and sometimes we even put steel bars and 2x4s and stuff on it to keep it from flexing. Once we've capped it, then we start to trench in underneath and dig a tunnel all the way around and create this giant pedestal that looks a bit like a mushroom. And then we start to extend the plaster underneath into the overhang.
How do you make sure you don't? I mean, does stuff sometimes fall out that didn't
It does,
get? Yeah.
It can be quite complicated.
Right.
And frustrating.
Right.
I've never had a jacket fail. 21 years. But sometimes you get it capped, and then eventually you got to flip it over and get plaster on the other side
Right.
to seal it up tight. And that's your most vulnerable moment, is then the flip. When you tear it off its pedestal and flip it over, if you're not careful, if you haven't done a proper job engineering the whole thing, it can fail and everything can just fall out of the bottom into a giant jumble and you want to go shoot yourself.
Oh my God.
Like I said, never had that happen. I hope to God I never have it happen. But anyways, that's the process. So you get it flipped over, you finish it off. In our case, a lot of times we're miles from a road and we were dealing with 2,000, 1.5 ton, 2 ton blocks of rock and fossil. So we're forced to use helicopters to retrieve them.
Oh.
Whoa.
So we have to bring in type 2 sort of medium aircraft and sling them on a long line and fly them out to a waiting trailer. And in fact, I'm going to be doing that Thursday. We're going to fly a load of fossils out on Thursday.